may be joining us momentarily. And Steve, you had mentioned, I beg your pardon, who was their guest? Kimberly Johnson. Will she be joining us, or is she? Did we lose Steve?
We did lose Steve.
Oh my, well, it is, I show 12:01, so I show one past the top of the hour. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order with the expectations that Steve will be rejoining us shortly with his newly updated, downloaded Zoom software. So 12:01 p.m. Eastern Time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. And I see that Nick is joining us. Terrific. So let's go ahead and get a few things taken care of with the anticipation of Steve Reed. Oh, and here comes Steve. So Kaditra, do you mind conducting a roll call for us, please?
Yeah. Scott Iden.
Here.
Michelle Durner.
Here.
Barbara Marchioni.
Here.
Diane Holt.
Here.
Dixie Newsome.
Here.
Nicholas Potter.
Here.
Paula Rigsby.
Here.
Cheryl Hickman.
Here.
All right. We also have Steve Pond, Kaditra Cooper, and we are awaiting Donna Rasco. And I'm going to disappear, but I'm going to
Well, we enjoy seeing your smiling face, but I understand. All right. I don't know if we've got any changes or additions. Does anybody have, before we go to approval of agenda, do we have any changes or additions, anything that's come up in the last, I don't know, couple of days?
Scott, under new business, I would just like to discuss, well, not discuss, but just bring to the board's attention that the February performance framework submission is going to be your criminal records, criminal history policy. So I'll just be asking for verification on that. So I can do that in new business.
Okay, Kaditra, sorry, restate that one more time.
The February performance framework is requesting verification of your criminal history. Your criminal history policy. So I just need to get verification for that. I'll talk more about that in new business. It's really quick.
Okay, I just want to make sure I get this captured in the agenda.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Kaditra. Any other board or actually anyone, any other changes to the agenda other than that new business ad we just noted? Oh, and I see Kimberly and Donna have joined us. Kimberly, don't rob us. I'm just teasing. These masks, my masks have smiley faces on them. So when I have to wear them, you know, I look like I'm very happy wearing that mask. Can we have a motion, please, from the directors for approval of the February agenda?
So moved.
I'm sorry, as amended.
So
Diane, I second it.
All right, thank you, Kaditra.
All right, we have Scott.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Dixie. Dixie, you're on mute.
Yes.
All right, Nicholas.
Yes.
Paula.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
All right, that gives us unanimous approval of the agenda as amended with that add to new business. And let's go ahead and move into section number 4, management reports. So we will start off with the illustrious Mr. Pond.
Well, thank you very much and happy February, everybody. Hope you're healthy and well. Things are great here at Peak. We continue to roll in the beginning of our third quarter, which started on the 24th. So all of the class changes for the quarter and or semester have taken place. And there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm here. We are also seeing a bit of a decline in the COVID exposures and quarantines, diagnoses that we've had to have, not because it's dropping outside of peak, but because we're coming off that very heavy wave of infection and spread that we had coming out of winter break. So things are leveling off kind of back to where they're reflecting society, for lack of a better term. We are still honoring all the guidelines and laws outlined in the North Carolina Strong School Handbook, communicating those with regularity, as Michelle can probably share in our parent messages, just to make sure that sick children stay at home. If you're an exposed person, to please check with us so we know if you're vaccinated, you can come to school, and if you're not vaccinated, you do have to quarantine. So that's been one of the bigger confusion points. So we keep pressing that with our families. Sports are beginning up in about a week and a half. We're going to have soccer tryouts beginning. We always invite you to come to any of our games, and I linked that in today's message for you. We are still growing our current enrollment. We had, as I've shared with you, usually it's the winter break and the time when a quarter ends that families tend to move. And so we've been quite busy today meeting new families who've been coming in last week and this week. But we still have over 1,200 on our wait list, and we are about 1,600 right now on the applications. We got a huge wave since last week when I sent the report to you. We're very excited. This month is when the application deadline closes on the 28th at 5. And then we have our lottery, which is always fun and exciting, on the 7th of March. We continue to also really press for high levels of teaching and learning that are going on within schools, especially as we've changed in the quarter and also for the semester in some of our classes. We really want to set that level to start off with, because as we know, it's easier to lighten up than tighten up. So we want to make sure our academic behavioral expectations are all fair and consistent, but we reteach them at the beginning of any quarter anyway, because we want to keep those positive rankings that we have from School Digger based on last year's data. One of the things last month you asked about were the U.S. News and World Report, and it's exciting to share that we were sent a pretty large plaque. It's about 11 by 14. It's in the front lobby from U.S. News and World Report. So that's displayed there. And we're going to continue to pursue that level of excellence in our elementary and middle school. And one of the ways we're doing that is we've already planned out our third and fourth quarter tutoring, which begins at the end of March and goes until end of grade testing begins on March 27th. We have several teachers that have already expressed an interest in doing that. And as I shared last month, we made the recommendation, and it was approved within our testing calendar to adjust our check-in number 2, which is that one of 3 tests that North Carolina has us do every year to evaluate our students' progress and performance in relation to the standards in the Common Core study that we're doing here at Peak. And so that's going to actually start on Valentine's Day. So we'll have another benchmark through which we can measure our students' aptitude. So by the end of February, we'll have another framework, and we can continue to differentiate and tier and adjust the instruction to meet our scholars' needs. I did add to this principal's report the adjustment we made last month in January to our summer learning program, which is for 3rd through 8th grade students. It's 2 weeks for 4th through 8th grade in English language arts, 3 weeks for 3rd grade English language arts to align with North Carolina's Read to Achieve guideline. And then we're also offering that in 5th and 8th grade science, because those are tested content areas, as well as 3rd through 8th grade math. And we've already begun parent-teacher conference signups. So we're going to do those all through the 3rd semester and end them by April 8th. And we've also contacted parents of students who are at risk of retention for a second time, whether it is due to their attendance, whether it's due to academic proficiency, or both. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Wow.
Scott, I have a question at the appropriate time. You're on mute.
I was having a Dixie moment. I was trying to make you read my lips. I believe, Dixie, you know I'm just teasing you.
Oh, that's okay.
Donna, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have a question about the lottery on March the 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
and Khaditra may be able to weigh in on this. We've received some information recently about a discussion about the North Carolina Administrative Code description of lottery requirements. The law, I would say, has not changed about the requirement for a lottery if you have more applications and seats and so forth. And the fact that you have to, publish it ahead of time. The public is supposed to be able to attend the lottery so they can see what you're doing and make sure you're doing it okay and whatnot. For some reason, the administrative code currently has language, and this has only been since last spring, which seems to suggest that the lottery must occur during a public meeting of the board. So there is, it's a little odd, but I have looked at the language, and the administrative code is the place where rules established by agencies in North Carolina gets published. So the State Board of Education traditionally has state board policies reflecting things like, procedures for charter schools. And again, the lottery process really hadn't changed, to my knowledge, under the law. But there's a new statement in the administrative code regarding how lotteries are supposed to happen. And it refers to the open meetings law, which would suggest that the lottery has to happen in an open meeting of the board. I know this provision has been brought to the attention of NHA, and my understanding is NHA is going to take a look at it and offer some recommendations about what to do. I'm just raising it because, again, it's been brought to our attention, and theoretically, we think that if you read the administrative code word for word as it is written, there's a requirement for conducting the lottery during a meeting of the board.
Donna, just to add to that, I do have, Friday, I received information from the team in regards to that, where they had consulted with one of our attorneys in North Carolina. So the response that I received is that DPI's intent is for schools to comply with the North Carolina Opens Meetings Law when conducting lotteries. That means that schools will need to provide notice of the lottery in the same manner that they provide notice for board meetings. However, the lottery does not have to be at a board meeting, and the board does not have to be present. Second, notice should be posted on the school's website in the same places that you post notice of school board meetings. This would include the calendar on the school's website. The notice will need to be done at least 48 hours in advance. If you intend to make the lottery available via live stream, you will need to state that on the notice and provide the link where the public can access the live stream. Third, the Opens Meeting Law requires that the public bodies take minutes of public meetings. It is not clear that I'm not gonna say that part. The law has been amended in the last year to allow a recording to serve as minutes of the meeting. And thus I would suggest recording the live stream if you can. So NHA stated to ensure we are following the guidelines above, the following process will be used. The lottery is currently posted in 2 locations on each school's website homepage and will also be included in the same locations we post special meetings. We will record both the live stream and the actual execution of the lottery via video camera in the room that we have at the service center. And the live stream recording is available on the school's website and the school's YouTube channel after the lottery. We are not required to publicly post the video camera recording of the lottery. So that is the feedback that I received from NHA. Any questions?
Got it. So I would say to the board, I have a couple of concerns. And I don't want to make more of a problem than there might be, but I would say to you that I have a concern that, well, first of all, it would be really helpful if I could see NHA's analysis.
Okay.
That would be helpful. It concerns me that the administrative code is a North Carolina legal requirement. The open meetings law applies to public bodies, not to general school gatherings. The only public body for peak is this board. So that's one of the reasons that this particular administrative code raises a question, because by referring to the open meetings law and that anybody is complying with the open meetings law, the open meetings law only applies to public bodies. That's why if you say open meetings law, we're looking to the board and what is the board doing or not doing. There's no such thing as convening under the open meetings law for a lottery. And I've not seen what Ms. Cooper was reading. And I haven't had any consultation with NHA or their legal counsel, but that concerns me.
Received a question from a board member and I sent it directly to the board member that had the question. So that's how I was able to get the response. But Don, I'm copying and sending the information to you now. So you'll have it.
So where we stand at this point is having a, how best to phrase this, a differing legal opinion on how to conduct or under what rules we need to conduct the lottery. So Khaditra, you said that that opinion came from one of NHA's North Carolina attorneys?
Yes. NHA consulted with the North Carolina attorney to get a full understanding of what was required to ensure we were in compliance.
So Donna, it strikes me that we should have you engage that attorney for further discussion and level setting on this, because as I'm hearing it right now, the attorney that was consulted by NHA says that we can conduct this without the board, and your opinion is in direct conflict with that.
Let me just be clear. My opinion isn't, there are two problems. One, it would be great to have consultation between the lawyers before you guys come into a meeting. We've had this problem before. I don't have any problem consulting with people and trying to get things straight before a meeting. But as I shared with you, I had no information from NHA or any counsel for NHA. The other thing that's really important that I would strongly urge the board, NHA cannot provide you legal advice. NHA's lawyer cannot provide you legal advice. I am obligated to provide you legal advice. The task is for us to work together. And I have no desire for you guys to have a board meeting to conduct the lottery. It's never been done that way. Doesn't make sense to me. My only obligation is to report to you that the new language in the administrative code, I mean, maybe somebody got confused, got it wrong, made a mistake, don't know what how it actually came about. But I would have to advise you that the language in the administrative code is there is one sentence that refers to conducting the lottery under the open meetings law. And it's not clear to me how you get around the fact that the open meetings law does not apply to routine school meetings like a lottery. It applies to public bodies, the board. Again, I'm happy to talk with NHA and work with them to try to reconcile this, but I would be remiss if I did not alert my client, the board, that under the administrative code, for some strange reason, there appears to be this new requirement that you, the board, have your lottery for peak charter conducted during a meeting of the board.
Donna, is there a resource that's available that you can consult with regards to this most recent change in that additional sentence to seek intent or clarification from what the state is requiring?
We've done that. One of the challenges I would say to you as an attorney is that there's this rule called having to make use of the plain language. So one of my concerns is there's not really ambiguity in this language. Much as Khaditra read early, earlier, the language says under the open meetings law. And I'd be happy if somebody explain to me how you get around under the open meetings law and how you get around the introductory part of the open meetings law that says the open meetings law applies to public bodies. The email I see from Khaditra says DPI's intent is for schools to comply with the open meetings law. Yep. When conducting lotteries. The open meetings law is for public bodies, not for general school meetings. And I'm not sure how you provide notice of the lottery, unless the lottery is a meeting of the public body. I mean, with all due respect, I would just say conflating notice of a lottery with notice of a board meetings under the open meetings law is kind of mixing apples and oranges. And to then say the lottery does not have to be a board meeting.
So Donna, what's your legal advice on the next step? It occurs to me that we need to have you speak with or consult. I don't know who the attorney was, but Khaditra, I'm sure you have that information, or that we can obtain that information. No?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't provided the name. I can assume who it could have been, but I don't have confirmation that that was the individual, which would be the individual I typically work with in North Carolina. So I can definitely just ask the question as a follow-up.
Steve, what's the date of the lottery?
I think you said March 7th.
It's March 7th.
Okay, so 3/7.
And I can give you the time in 1 sec. We are 2 p.m. on March 7th.
Well, board, any comments from the directors on this matter? Okay, not hearing any. Donna, I think what we need to do is ask you to engage directly with that attorney so that you guys can have that plain language conversation and understand why that attorney is of the opinion. However, the lottery does not have to be a board meeting. Are you in agreement with that, Donna?
Absolutely, I'm happy to do that. And again, not wanting to stir anything up, but it's much, much better, in my opinion, to try to sort this out ahead of time than to proceed with this. And worst case scenario, you'd have to redo your lottery. And I would strongly advise you absolutely do not want to do that.
No.
I've had that experience. NHA's had that experience on at least one occasion that I'm aware of for a completely different reason. You do not want to have to do that. That's the reason to really kind of, and it's, I mean, I'll be blunt with you, it's a little disappointing to have this level of analysis and recommendation that we didn't have the opportunity to talk about ahead of time. Because, I mean, I've worked with NHA lawyers before, great lawyers, but they can't give you legal advice. They just can't. In the same way, I can't give NHA legal advice.
I just want to clear that up as well. It wasn't, it was a question that was presented, and the question received a response from the individual that asked the question. So I just want to clear that up. NHA wasn't providing legal advice. They were answering a question that was presented to them. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Understood. And in responding to and answering that question, basically providing a legal opinion.
Exactly.
Is the way I'm interpreting this. So Khaditra, can I ask you to work with Donna or provide the information for this specific person, this attorney, so that one-to-one conversation can take place and we can have that counsel coming back from Donna on what we should do as a board?
Yeah, I'm sending an email now to obtain that individual's name and contact information.
All righty. Sounds like a deal.
And we should know before March the 7th, before our next meeting, because that runs close.
You would have to, and I it's probably obvious, but the forecast would be the board ultimately has to make the decision. And I mean, one of the things I would want you to see is the actual language of the administrative code, because it's the board that would be held responsible for either complying with that or not complying with it. And certainly my goal would be to try to get some resolution and offer the board some advice that's kind of easy to implement, but ultimately the board would have to decide. At this point, I mean, I think the choices are going to be darn, doesn't quite make sense, but schedule a board meeting. Make sure the lottery happens in a board meeting. And if anybody comes back and says, well, did you follow the open meetings law for your lottery? Yep, we held the lottery during a board meeting, even though that doesn't kind of sound consistent with what you've done in the past. The alternative is to, you know, follow the path that NHA seems to be describing. And at least at this point, I think there's some risk to that. But again, that's what I'll try to sort out.
And Donna, does that mean that we would have to convene again for another meeting to get the response that you have found to be true?
Potentially. Well, I think you would probably need to convene to make a decision.
Okay.
I could, as long as there's not deliberation, I could certainly transmit my information to you in an email and kind of let you know what I found out, kind of thing. But if you're going to have any deliberations about it thereafter and make any decision, which you're likely to need to do, yes, you'd have to have another meeting well before March 7th.
Donna, I have a question. This is Dixie. This same ruling would apply to all North Carolina academies, right? So
That is
yeah.
true.
Mhm,
That is
mhm.
true. And we're having this conversation with a number of different folks. I mean, different people handle it differently, but.
Right. And in addition, there are other charter schools in North Carolina other than the Heritage. So I would assume, look like somebody at North Carolina State Education Office would know an answer to these questions as well.
And I will share with you that my sense and my understanding, you're absolutely right. Every charter school in the state would be dealing with this, except that if a charter school's enrollment and application process is such that they don't need a lottery, then this issue doesn't arise.
Oh, okay.
Right. So if we start with the whole group of charter schools, then we knock out those people who aren't doing a lottery. It is common, it has never been the practice or the requirement that you need to do this in a board meeting. So my sense and my understanding is that most folks are just not doing it in a board meeting. And that's not necessarily the end of the world. Again, my task and what I'm attempting to do is just draw to your attention as the board that there is this requirement.
Steve, how many weeks did you say you were required to give notice before the lottery date?
It is already going. We made that decision early in the year. I'm not sure what the legal requirement is, Donna, maybe you know, but we have been sharing that date as early as we can recall this year. And it's already being communicated through the website and through the office. Our school ambassador shares it with every family who's applying, just to make sure they know to tune in and watch on YouTube.
So if all of this goes the direction that it has to be a board meeting, then the board meeting would need to be on the 7th.
It would be much easier to have the board meet on the 7th and then stay for the lottery than it would be to reschedule the lottery, as it's already printed and published on flyers we take to parent meetings and our pizza with the principal events. And it would need to be, I'm sure, a quorum at 2 o'clock on the 7th. Which of those two would be preferable? I'm sorry, Scott.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry. So with respect to a timeline, we have a scheduled board meeting the first Tuesday in March on March 1st. The following Monday, the 7th, is the lottery. Donna, does that give you a sufficient time frame that we could actually bring this back with the opinion, with the advice for the scheduled 3/1 board meeting?
Oh, absolutely.
Does anyone have any concerns? Now, looking at the calendar, that basically gives us 4 business days to make that determine. Sorry, gives us 4 business days ahead of the 7th. But I believe that we can conduct that business and make a board decision in the 3-1 meeting. Does anyone disagree with that? And Donna, that would give you, I believe, sufficient time, with contact and some back and forth and scheduling the time to have that one-to-one conversation. If we can be prepared with that legal advice, following that consultation with this attorney, I believe that we can make that decision in the 3-1 meeting.
The only caution I would give you is that based on what we've talked about thus far, you would need to know that one thing you might be deciding on 3-1 is to hold a meeting on 3-7.
I don't have any issue with that. Board, do you guys have any issue with having that potential? There's only 2 scenarios, A and B. We do not conduct a board meeting and the lottery goes off as it has in past years. Or we decide on 3-1 that we will have a board meeting on 3-7. If I caught that correctly, the minimum requirement is 48 hours in advance. But Steve, like you said, this is a notice and notification to, I assume, anybody who has an application in.
Absolutely. And
They've all
they all know when it is and what we're doing and where to go to see it.
So board, do we have any concerns with that time frame? If
In participating in the lottery on 3-7, what is the board required to do other than just be present?
That's it. To convene an official meeting. And Khaditra just sent to Scott and Steve and myself the administrative code we're talking about. And at some point, and I don't know, Khaditra, if you want to go ahead and send it to the entire board, it's real short. And as I said, it's the last sentence, which says the lottery shall occur during an official meeting that shall be open to the public and subject to Article 33C of Chapter 143. That's the open meetings law. And I mean, again, from my perspective, that's pretty plain language. The open meeting law actually defines official meeting. The definition of official meeting under the open meetings law is a meeting, assembly, gathering of the members of the public body. I'll have the conversation with NHA, but again, I'm not sure how you get around that it's a meeting of the board.
It seems rather absolute in that language.
That may not have been the intent, but
well, that's why I was curious to what extent you've had an opportunity to consult with an authority for the state that, and I don't know how that gets interpreted. Who interprets that? I mean, if that's part of general statute.
Right. At the end of the day, a judge interprets it, and that's my concern for you guys. I don't want you to be on the receiving end of a judge's interpretation that says official meeting defined by the open meetings law says the board, you're the board. Why didn't you meet? That's the risk.
Well, then, Donna, I'd ask that let's go ahead and move forward with having that one-to-one consultation or with that individual or that firm, and let's see what they have to say. We're going to go off of your legal advice. I believe that the time frame is sufficient, that if we look at this on the first Tuesday of March, and provided that we follow this path and that we need to set up a board meeting, we have adequate time to provide that advance notice and post that if that 48-hour window is what's required. But again, the purpose of the the board being present, the purpose of the meeting is the lottery. And that has been more than sufficiently communicated to all those who are on a waiting list, correct?
Steve, I have a question. How long does the lottery take? How,
It will likely be under an hour.
okay,
So my thought was, if you all might be able to look at calendars now, just to see if we did need to convene. It is online. So we would all be doing it online anyway. We're not at the place where we feel comfortable letting 400 or 500 families, we're close to 1,600 apps come here. But if
right.
you all, a quorum would be able to be online, that might help resolve the issue as a backup plan if there is indeed a need to change. And Donna's certainly the expert, not me.
Right. Well, that was my question, if we would have a quorum, but for an hour or less, I don't think that would be an issue. So I suggest, Scott, that we move forward and have our meeting next month as scheduled, and then we'll go from there.
And the lottery would be March the 7th at 2:00.
Yes,
Correct.
ma'am. So if convening it at 1:50 or 1:55, I know the lottery usually starts with a presentation from me, but because it's virtual, I have already recorded that. So somebody from NHA will share who, that we're about to start and play the message from me, and then they will actually start the lottery. But it won't be a lengthy one like it was for those of you who were with us in year one, because the majority of seats, last year we only had kindergarten seats and I think 2 in the other grades at the time of the lottery, because we knew those children were moving. But other than that, it would just be wait list, and we don't even call the names of children who go on the wait list. They just appear on the screen. So that speeds things up a bit.
Donna, what's your opinion on, okay, open meetings and the board is present, but if the board is not taking any action, is a quorum required?
Quorum is required to convene the meeting, to be in an official meeting, right? So an official meeting under the open meetings law is a majority of the members of a public body together.
Okay. All right.
You can have a meeting and not take action. You can have a meeting just to deliberate.
Well, it strikes me that a meeting on 3/7 to support the lottery and being in compliance with general statutes, there would be no action on our part.
Probably.
All right. I don't believe that we need to vote on this as an action item. Donna, is that something that we can expedite as best as possible so that
I will do my very best.
I know we're not your only client, but yeah,
You're
considering
the most important one, though.
you,
Right now, anyway, for another hour or so.
oh my goodness. All right, so the action item or the takeaway there is that our council is going to consult with the council and or firm that offered the opinion and the interpretation of, what is that? Whatever that general statute is, and that we will look to hear Donna's outcome on this and official legal counsel on this ahead of the 3/1 meeting, but we will look to take action on that as an action item on Tuesday 3/1 ahead of the 3/7 2 p.m. lottery. Any last discussion, questions on that before we move forward? All right, well, let's go ahead and move on. And I apologize, board, any other questions for Steve with regards to the content of the principal's report? Okay, not hearing any. Let's quickly move on to the board fund report. We were already 40 after the hour, and I have an absolute 100% hard stop at half past the hour after 1 o'clock. So let's move on to the board fund report. Khaditra, do you mind?
All right, so the board fund report starts on page 6 of your PDF or 4 of your packet. And you all have an available balance of $42,586.66. Does anyone have any questions regarding the board fund balance or any of the line items within the report?
Nope.
All righty. Thank you, Khaditra. Steve, I believe you're covering Esther's funds report. Can we move on to that quickly, please?
Sir, as you look, and I'm going to minimize my screen over here, the ESSER funds report we discussed earlier in the year, it's how we are allocating, or NHA is allocating our entire allotment of what has been awarded to us. So if you please take a look in your manual, your report. I'm skipping through to that really quickly. Are there any questions about how we and or NHA are utilizing that together?
And I have to apologize. I went back to I received the printed copies and then I went back to the portal to make sure I wasn't missing any pages, but I did not see any detailed pages, additional pages in this month's packet around the ESSER's funds.
I am actually looking at that right now and I'm trying to scroll through, and maybe that's why I was scrolling because I am not seeing it after the board fund report. I can assure you it's being implemented as we discussed previously, and it's an overview of all the things like the technology that we purchased for ensuring one-to-one device to student ratio, all of the safety things that we have in place in the school, so the gloves and masks and all the sanitizers and the allotment. I'm scrolling through. Khaditra, do you have it by chance?
Just pulled up just a document that was emailed to both of us.
Okay, perfect. That's what I saw.
Failed to be included in the packet. So
yeah.
Here you guys go. Can you see it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And so as this is the generation of what we had already allotted. So you can see there's several ESSER breakdowns. Our allotment was actually all one fund, different schools. Some of them got an ESSER 1 allotment, then an ESSER 2 and an ESSER 3. Ours was broken down in the areas of the set aside to make sure we had everything we needed for the technology and the instructional equipment, but also the digital learning allocation, the making sure that we can provide an equitable learning environment for all of our students. And that's the latter two columns. So we're making sure that everybody has the access to the safety, the essentials that they need, the personal protective equipment. We still sanitize everybody's hands when they come in and out of a classroom, in and out of the building, when they leave for the lunchroom and come back for the lunchroom. We're also working with ESSER allocations based on summer learning. As we talked about, we have the summer learning dates in place, and then we also have the staffing, and we're actually seeking those staff members' commitment as we speak. And thanks for putting that up, Khaditra.
You're welcome.
Khaditra, I believe that we should probably take that workbook and send that as an attachment to the board.
I can do that.
Just so that we all have that that breakdown. And I want to say, I was just looking at the January packet. I think we had some January board meeting content around the ESSER funds, but I'm not going to try to dig through that packet at this time.
Yeah, and a lot of that are large scale allotments that are on our behalf through NHA as your management partner, but they are being implemented as they are determined to be for.
Okay. Board, any questions for Steve on the ESSER funds? Okay, if not, then let's go ahead and move forward into section number 5, discussion items. Item 5A is identifying potential board members. Board, do we have anything to share in regards to any interest you guys might be aware of? Okay, not hearing any. Let's move on to item 5B, the proposed sale of school facilities. And I believe that that whole thing is still in flight or in process. Kaditra, is there anything you wanted to share with the board with regards to that or any updates?
Donna, would you like to share the update you shared last night?
Sure. Steve, Scott, I'm sorry. I'm curious about your comment that it's in flight. I don't think it's taken off yet. It's in the hangar.
It was due in October, so
I know.
I think it's in flight.
I actually think it's still in the hangar, but the door is like halfway open. I've continued to receive reports from the attorney for NHA, and my understanding is that they are shooting for the spring, but I do not have updated documents yet. Scott, you're muted.
Sorry, my dogs are barking downstairs, so I was keeping myself on mute. Board, any questions for Donna around that? I mean, I think we all know what we're dealing with here, and it's kind of hurry up and wait, but any questions? Okay, not hearing any. Let's move on to the 2021-2022 amended budget. That is item 5C. I will share with you guys that I looked at the amended budget. I did not see anything that concerned me, and it appeared that our budget had grown proportionally to what I believe to be, frankly, funds coming from the federal government in relationship to the different COVID relief acts that have been passed. Michelle, I don't know, did you have any comment on the amended budget or anything that concerned you?
Yeah, I looked at it as well and saw the same thing that you did in regards to revenue and, obviously expenses increased somewhat too based on the increased revenue. So it all looked normal to me.
And that was really my expectation. If we got more money, we're going to spend more money. That's the American way.
Of course.
Board, does anyone have any questions in regards to the amended budget or any concerns you want to share? All righty then, not hearing any. I'm sorry, I didn't cut somebody off, did I? Sorry.
No, I just said no. Concerns.
Thanks, Diane. All right, well then let's move forward to item 5D. This is actually, let's talk about D and E together to expedite this. We have the 2022 National Charter Schools Conference. That's outside of NHA. And then we have the 2022 NHA Board Symposium. I think the conversation should probably just be very simple and start with directors or officers' interest on this board in attending either one of the conference or the symposium. Have you guys given thought or consideration to attending either event?
Scott, at this time, I'm only attending virtual conferences. So unless it's virtual, I will not be attending.
I understand that concern, especially in large
Large
groups, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kaditra, help me remember, so I don't have to dig through all this. What's our dates on? I mean, we're going to have action dates on this, right? For the conference and the symposium.
Yeah, I'll break this down really quickly. The conference is going to be held, the National Charter School Conference will be held June 19th through June 22nd. The board, the room block that's going to be in DC, because that's where it's going to be held this year, will be held until May 9th. And the registration ends at that same time. So you have until May 9th to decide whether or not you would like to attend. But what we would have to do is have the board approve funds prior to registering for the conference.
Okay, so it seems that we have sufficient time. Now that's for the conference. This
Mhm.
symposium doesn't occur until next fall, right?
October 22nd. It's going to be held in Dearborn, Michigan at the Henry. And it still is going to be a one-day event, the same way that it was this past year. And there's going to be an optional dinner on October 24th for anyone that would like to attend. We have not yet been provided the monetary piece of the conversation yet, but of course that will be forthcoming as the year progresses. Does anyone have any questions about the symposium or the charter school conference?
Not hearing any questions. The only thing I would toss out to our team is please carefully consider over the course of the next 2 months, March and April, so that we can take action in April if necessary to financially support attendance at either one of the events. I think that gives us adequate time to individually consider whether or not you would like to attend either event in person. And I don't think there is no virtual attendance option for the conference. I don't remember reading anything. Yeah, so these would both be in-person events. So I would simply ask the team, please consider this. Hopefully over the next 30 days so that we can have further discussion in March, but certainly over the course of the next 60 days and come to a conclusion as to whether or not you would like to attend the symposium or the conference. Does that sound like a plan for everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
And I would just
All
say,
right.
I went to the National Charter School Conference 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I don't know. And honestly, I can't even remember where it was. I think we were somewhere in Texas, maybe. But it was a good conference. I would recommend that, anybody go really. And I think those of you who have the education background would really appreciate what the conference offers for you guys. I mean, some of it was kind of foreign to me. Just because I haven't lived in that world before, but it was very well put together. So I haven't been to the NHA one, so I can't speak to that one.
It was very good. The NHA one in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, and even going to the National Charter one, I don't know if NHA still does it, but they sponsored a dinner one night where all the other NHA schools were there, and it was a really good opportunity to meet some of the board members from some of the other North Carolina schools too, and to talk to them. So I got to meet quite a few people from Charlotte, so that was nice.
And it was held at Sunset Beach when I went to the charter school one, and it was really informative. Yep. And Dixie went too.
I did. Yeah, I think, it's great to attend your conferences, but as I keep saying, with current conditions, I'm sort of surprised that they're not having more options for virtual conferences, or certainly, portions of it could be virtually held, I would think.
I sent you guys, especially with the National Charter School Conference, I sent you a link about maybe a week and a half ago. I didn't click on the link myself, but if there was I know it was like about interest, but if was there an open comment section? Because you may want to be able to add that information in to tell them that it would be good to add just certain virtual sessions.
Okay.
So that all board members can feel like they're a part of the conference.
Good conversation, you guys, and board members. Thank you for adding that color and that opinion. No doubt there's benefits that can be obtained by attending, but I also understand I get it. I understand the concerns around being in the proximity of that many people. Obviously in an indoor setting, So, all right, let's consider that as we discussed, and primarily, over the next 30 days, but certainly extended out to 60 days. But hopefully we'll possibly see some changes in what's going on, right, with regards to the pandemic and numbers. So we'll look forward to that, and we'll have that discussion at a future meeting. The next item is item 5F. This is the second quarter financial statements. I'm going to add, I went through these and I did not see anything that caused any alarm on my part or anything that looked like it was significantly out of line with spending expectations. And Michelle, as our treasurer, I'll ask you the same thing. Did you see anything that concerned you or alerted you that you feel that we need to take questions back to the accounting team at
No, I
NHA?
did not. Yeah, I didn't see anything of concern.
Okay. And I'll extend that out to the rest of the board. Finance or financials may not be your expertise, but it's very plain language format. So if you saw anything that has alarmed you or alerted you, or if you have questions, now's the time to get those in place so that we can have that addressed by our NHA partners. Any questions on the second quarter financials?
Nope.
All right, not hearing any, and some confirmation there. Let's move on to the item 5G. This is the board self-evaluation and evaluation of NHA. And I'll stop for a second. Khaditra, I'm sure you have some color commentary for us here, not only in our packet, but I believe that we also have.
Yeah,
Can't remember what the
emailed
deadline
you all the
was.
Google links. I emailed you all the Google links on Friday, January 28th. So if you wanted to scroll through and look for my name, it will be around that time. And I put in there for the board evaluation, if you could have that complete and back to me through that Google link by February 11th. So 10 days from today. And the evaluation of NHA, if you could have that back to me by February 28th, that would be great. And then we'll be right on track to be able to discuss the results of the evaluation and evaluations in an upcoming meeting. And this will keep you from having multiple evaluations back to back to back or at the same time. So let's try to have those done before the end of February, because I think your board evaluation is coming in March. And then you'll still have to do your principal evaluation between April and June. So we're aiming for timing here. Any questions?
No.
All right, that's all I have.
And board, let's do our best to complete these things ahead of the deadline, understanding that if we wait to the last second and we bomb Khaditra with all of our responses on the very last possible day, that could potentially present some challenges, scheduling challenges and work for her. So my ask would be that we go ahead and try to get those completed as soon as possible. Right after this board meeting. No, just kidding. So
I'm not opposed to that.
thank you, Khaditra. Thank you, Khaditra. I'm sure we're not your only school. So yeah, let's do our part to try to help out our lovely and esteemed partner, Khaditra, in getting this information to her as soon as possible. Their next item up is 5H. This is a demographics mirroring plan. And I didn't know, Khaditra or Steve, who's going to speak to this?
I can speak to it.
Okay.
This is pretty much based upon a statute, which is 115C-218-45. So within 1 year of the charter school beginning operations, this charter school shall make efforts for the population of the school to reasonably reflect the racial and ethnic composition of the general population residing within the local school administrative unit. So as of January 2022, the Office of Charter Schools began collecting these plans and having them be submitted in the epicenter. So this will be an annual requirement going forward for the board to review the plan each year moving forward. So this is a copy of the demographics mirroring plan. Donna, do you have any input for the board? Donna and I have had this conversation a few times, but I didn't want to overstep.
Thanks, Khaditra. The plan itself, I think, looks fine. There were 2 edits that I recommended previously that were not made to this one.
Uh-oh.
That is in the very first line, per NC General Assembly statute. That should probably more appropriately say general statute, so delete assembly. And I think NHA did that on the other ones. And then in the
Donna, I'm sorry, that one's not on this that's in the packet now.
Did y'all change the packet?
Nope. It's in the content that I have.
Yeah.
It's, okay, it's not on the one I'm looking at. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'm not, whenever my staff downloaded the packet, the version I have says General Assembly statute in the first line.
Okay.
So get rid of the word assembly.
Got
It should just say North Carolina General Statute. And then the 3rd paragraph down, there's a sentence, the first sentence, the school employs a variety of strategies to recruit, enroll, and retain students that mirror the demographics of the community where the school resides. The school doesn't reside, the students reside. So that needs to be where the school is located. And so it looks like it's been changed in this one that Khaditra is now displaying on your screen.
Pull mine up directly from the portal right before the meetings. So the final packet will include this information. When we received this, you guys, your packets had already been mailed to you, but the portal does reflect the right copy.
Okay, good. So Don, I have a question for you. So we make statements on behalf of Peak Charter Academy about our demographics mirroring plan. This institution has always had far more applicants than positions or seats available for students. Do we, as a board or as a school, do we open ourselves to or subject ourselves to any possible misinterpretation of, because if we conduct a blind lottery, you cannot target any specific demographic goals because it's a blind lottery. Are we in a suitable legal position that despite what we state about demographics mirroring plan, the fact will probably remain for the near future that we will have a blind lottery? Does that doesn't set us up for any sort of misinterpretation or potential action on behalf or from an individual on behalf of a student who falls into a protected class?
I would recommend no. I would say the mirroring plan that's before you is consistent with the law. And in fact, you want your lottery to be blind, because otherwise there might indeed be the argument that you are discriminating against someone based on some category. Now, I will say that the charter school law does now allow for a weighted lottery. That's an option, but you don't have to do that. You all do not currently have a weighted lottery. You don't have to have a weighted lottery. You have a blind lottery. That would be consistent with being non-discriminatory.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
All right. I had a question. Since Peak draws from different areas, even different counties, right, Steve? Isn't there one other county?
And there's 4 total: Durham, Wake, Chatham, Lee, and Harnett that we have drawn from, with more in the past, but primarily it's Wake County. And I have some data I could share with you all when you're done asking, Cheryl.
Do you know what I'm going to ask?
I'm not sure, but I had some data anyway.
So I wonder how you determine for Peak, mirroring the
general population when you have so many different communities that you draw from?
Sure, and it's probably less than 3 or 4% that come from other counties in the grand scheme of things. So looking at Wake County, we started out in 2017, and we were our students were the majority of our students were white at 56.8%, and we have continued, as was mentioned, to market our school to everybody throughout the community, to have meetings with the principal in all different parts of town. And in 5 years, the percentage of white students has dropped from 56.8 to 41.8, which is below, it's 8 points below Wake County. So we are a minority majority school, for lack of a better term, just in looking at our student population across the board. And one of the things we did back right before COVID, Cheryl, was we had we put a survey out to our community to find out where everybody came from. And we, at that time, found we serve 39 different countries of origin, either for students being born there or their parents. And there are 25 different languages spoken here in addition to English. So we've continued, those numbers have continued to change and evolve, and we love it. We're the United Nations of Peak.
Right. That was just for my general information, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, but we keep track of that as well, because I want all people to feel welcome and to apply. Some charter schools and charter school critics have take the view that charter schools attract and pursue white students, or they attract and pursue high level of socioeconomic wealth by advertising only in certain communities or certain neighborhoods or types of stores. But we have done several different locations throughout the area for our meetings, everything from coffee shops to pizza places and buffet restaurants. And so we're trying to reach as many socioeconomic demographies as we are able.
And one more question, Donna, does this statute apply only to charter schools?
Whoa, there's the question of the day. Yes.
Okay.
Interesting. Good questions, you guys. Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Steve, for elaborating on that. That's the commentary I think we want to hear as a board, right? That we are achieving that socioeconomic diversity across any identified class.
Most definitely.
All right, so we are at 8 after the top of the hour. I have a hard stop in 22 minutes. Let's move on to our action items. So the first item is 6A, approval of the January 11th, 2022 board meeting minutes. Donna, what are your revisions?
I really only have one question, and that is under, there was just one sentence that I couldn't make sense. It's a bullet point under 5A. The third bullet point that says being governed by laws. I wasn't quite sure what was being conveyed there.
Looks like it was probably a typo. So I will look at my notes and compare it to what was typed.
Dietrich, could that possibly have been being governed by laws or statutes, comma, officers set in bylaws, referring to our bylaws, and election of, yeah, I'm with you, Donna. That loses me there at the end. An election of bylaws. What is our action to take well, not knowing what that's going to be, can we just table the approval of the January 11th and conduct that approval in our next meeting?
The table it. I can look it up really quick to see what I submitted to Sarah versus what was typed. I can look it
Okay.
up.
And Scott, I will just say that my notes reflect and my recollections that this was just discussion. So it wasn't like it's a motion or a vote or anything. And my recollection is that you discussed the fact that this topic is governed by your bylaws, including things like who the officers are and how you do elections. So I think that was the idea that was being conveyed here. And I'm fine with Khaditra just confirming that from her notes.
Okay, do we need to go ahead and make that correction? And Khaditra, I know you're looking it up, but do we need to go ahead and make that correction or strike that from the prior meeting's minutes before we take action by vote to approve those meeting minutes?
The board discussed bylaws, the officers and elections.
That sounds fine to me.
All right, so we will be looking to amend bullet point number 3 under discussion item 5A to convert to text what Khaditra just said. So knowing that we will have that piece amended, can we have a motion from the board for approval of the January 11th, 2022 board meeting minutes as amended?
This is Cheryl. I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the January 11th meeting.
Thank you, Cheryl. Second.
This is Paula. I second it.
Thank you, Paula. Khaditra, can we roll call, please?
Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes,
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you, Khaditra. Thank you, everybody. All right, so item action 6A, we, according to North Carolina General Statute, we must reconfirm our face covering policies. I don't know that we need to have any extensive conversation on this. You guys know my stance on face masks. I'm not a fan. However,
Me either.
however, I believe that for the protection of our staff and our students, frankly, the statistics have supported continuing with our policy with no changes, which is my position. Does anybody have an alternative position on that or wish to discuss changing our face coverings policy at this time?
This is Nick. I agree with the mask policy. I'm not a fan of masks, but I'm more of not a fan of COVID. So I agree with that.
Exactly.
Excuse me. Well, I'm right there with you, Nick, because you weren't quite joined us for the meeting, but myself, my wife, and my daughter have all tested positive for COVID last week with home tests and with lab tests. And yeah, not fun. Not something you really want to go
Okay.
after.
You guys doing
So,
okay?
Yeah. Quite frankly, it wasn't even as bad as having the flu that I can recall over the past several years. But I know that each case is very individual to that person, and their immunities. But we also think that we also possibly had it previously at the end of 2019. So we probably have been living with antibodies as long as anybody. All right, so board, we need to have a motion for reconfirmation of our face covering policies with no changes.
Diane, I so move.
Thank you,
This is-
Diane.
This is Dixie. I second.
Thank you, Dixie. Khaditra, can we do a run through?
Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes,
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you, board. For item 6C, election of board president, we are going to table that item today as we are not in any position to take action on that at this time. The next item is 6D. This is approval of our 2021-2022 amended budget as contained within our February packet. We discussed this and I don't believe that we have any issues there. So can we please have a motion for approval of the amended budget?
This is Michelle. So moved.
Thank you, Michelle. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Barbara. Khaditra, let's run through.
Great. Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Khaditra. Thank you, board. The last item in our action items, approval of the board funds for the 2022 National Charter Schools Conference. We're going to table that item to the next month or possibly the following month, as of course the board needs to weigh in on the desire to attend the National Charter Schools Conference. So we'll table that for today. Moving on to number 7. Excuse me, new business or our next agenda. And Khaditra, you're going to speak to our February performance framework and the verification of criminal history policy.
Yes. So pretty much every month there's typically something due for the performance framework. And I just wanted to, Scott, I'm going to end up sending you an email, you and Steve, that is asking for your signature for the verification form to be submitted. And I'm sorry, you guys, I had it up and just completely lost it. So here we go. So it's for your criminal history check policy. And what what's pretty much done is that if you do not have a new policy, you are able to submit the verification form for the current year just to resubmit. So that's pretty much what I'm asking for. Your policy is not changing at all. The policy that you approved is the policy that DPI will receive. The only thing is that we'll attach a verification form to it for the current year. Does anyone have any questions? And this is on your portal under board policies.
Khaditra, can you quickly, and I apologize because I have not specifically looked at this, certainly recently. This policy, the criminal history check policy, does this apply across, forgive the term, does this apply across the board to any and all people that are engaged with or work with Peak? And when I say that, I'm talking about
Contractors
teachers, exactly, contractors, to support staff, third-party engaged staff, board members. I mean, I assume this uniformly applies across all positions.
To my understanding, yes. From in reading it, the answer is yes. The board has determined that every position in the academy, regardless of whether the position is located in the academy or elsewhere, potentially entails contact with students, either on regular, occasional, or emergency basis. So that's pretty much what this is pertaining to. Can you see it? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Okay, that's really the only question I have. Board team, do we have any questions for Khaditra around the policy? And Khaditra, you said that the way we execute this or make this confirmation is that we have board representation sign and we have school administration sign.
Right. And all you're going to do is send me your permission to use your e-signature and we'll go from there. So we have record that you gave me permission.
Understood. Board, any final questions on that before we move forward to public comment?
This is Donna. May I inquire as to whether you intended to approve the demographics mirroring plan?
It wasn't on the agenda for approval. So if you guys wanted to approve it, just make the motion.
Well, we do need to Does the board need to endorse that, Kaditra?
It was only listed as review for the board, but I understand what Donna's saying. If you reviewed it, you can go ahead and approve it.
Then I would, in the interest of time and efficiency, I would ask one of the board director or officer to make a motion for the approval of the demographics mirroring plan as presented today.
So moved.
Thank you,
I
Barbara.
second.
Was
Thank you,
that
Cheryl.
Paula? Oh, that was Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Cheryl. I was reading her lips.
All right, so I'll do a quick roll call. Scott,
Please. Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula.
Yes.
All right, and Cheryl.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Unanimous. All right. Thank you, Donna. And thank you, Kaditra and board. That's one more thing checked off our to-do list. All right. Our next item is public comment. However, I do not believe we have any public attendance today. Is that correct, Kaditra?
Do not.
All righty. All right. Well, then, in the interest of time, let's go ahead and look for a motion from the floor, from the board, for adjournment of the February meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara.
You what?
Sorry. The second, I'm sorry, I think I spoke over whoever
Yeah,
seconded. Sorry.
Dixie, I second.
Thank you, Dixie. Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right. All right, so the meeting is adjourned at 1:22.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for your time and
Thanks.
your
Take care.
efforts. And we'll see you soon.
All
Thank you,
right,
guys.
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Everybody.